Dear students, I wish you all a great day. We are going to see another topic titled New Historicism. It's a literary theory and it was introduced by Stephen Greenblatt, and he is called the father of New Historicism. He used the term the first time in his book titled The Power of Forms in the English Renaissance, and it was published in 1982. So we can see some of the features of New Historicism. History is central. New Historicism sees history as one that has a direct and undeniable impact on any literary text that has been created. It has such an impact upon any literary text that has been written by any writer. Number two is all historical factors must be considered when the text is subjected to, taken for analysis. So when a text is analyzed using New Historicism, all the factors, social, economic and political factors must be analyzed because all these contribute to the historical background of a text. Third one is the critic's historical conditions are relevant too. So we feel the author, the thoughts of the author, the feelings of the author are shaped by the time period in which he lived and he belonged to. The same thing could be applied to a critic also. So when a critic reads a text, he is influenced by the time period of, he is influenced by his own time period. So we can find out what kind of biases he takes to the text when he reads it. He is also biased because of his own time period. So it also has to be taken into consideration, the time period of the not only of the writer but also of the critic when we analyze a text. Third one is power is the key consideration. New Historicism looks at the power, the manifestation of power in the author's writing, how power manifests or expresses itself in the author's writing. So society, each and every society has its own hierarchies. It depends upon the period in which the writer lives. The author's work either may criticize the structures of power during his time. Otherwise, it may confirm the structures of power that have been existing in his time period. It can provide a new insight into the text's historical context because the text is analyzed against the background of the historical context. So this aspect of New Historicism is influenced by the theorist Michel Foucault. And the next important feature is nuance. Nuance is the fineness, the subtlety of the work. Nuance can be considered the key of the text. And moreover, it tells us of the ever-changing nature of history. New Historicism gives priority to nuance above all the other things. All aspects of historical context have to be considered when a text is analyzed, but more importance can be given to the nuance of the text, the subtlety, the core of the text. And moreover, this theory, New Historicism, tells us and confirms the ever-changing nature of history. History doesn't remain static. It keeps on changing. So it has to be taken into consideration. The changing nature of history should be considered whenever the text is read for analysis. New historicism is an analysis tool for any piece of literature. So using new historicism, the researcher can interpret the social, cultural and political factors that have influenced the text. And the text cannot be free from the influence of all these factors. And the influence is not only on the text. The influence of the text can be found on the culture of the time. So the culture of the time also gets modified by the influence of the text. A literary text has to be called a social commentary of the race, milieu, and moment. So it is a social commentary. It doesn't stand apart from the society because it expresses the feelings, the thoughts, the ideals, the ideas of the society. So it is a social commentary of the race, milieu, and a moment. Peter Barry is another great theorist, and he has come out with a simple definition of new historicism. So it can be called a method that can be applied to study any literary text. But this method is based on the parallel reading of literary and non-literary texts of the same historical period. So when a piece of literature has to be analyzed, it can be compared with a non-literary text that has the same historical background. And according to new historicism, no privilege is assigned to the literary text. Literary text is not considered greater than any other text. Literary text is not superior to the non-literary text. And what can be called non-literary text? It can be anything. A legal document, a legal article, or a political article, anthropological article, or a social article, a historical article. Anything can be considered a literary text. But what kind of non-literary text? And what kind of non-literary text can be compared with a literary text that is taken for research? So the non-literary text and the literary text should be against the same background, same historical background. And a literary text is not privileged. It doesn't enjoy any privileged position in the mind of the researcher. It is not at all in the foreground. And we should not mistake that the non-literary text is in the background. It is also is not in the background. Equal weighting or equal weightage should be given to both the literary and the non-literary texts. And it was confirmed by and it was presented by Louis Montrose. And he only said of the equal weighting that could be assigned to both the texts. And he helped us to find out the historicity of the text because the literary text is against the background of a particular historical moment. And we can find textuality in history also. Textuality or traces of textuality can be found in the historical document or in the historical article. And a very keen attention, a deep attention should be given to the study of the non-literary text in order to find out the textual traces of the past in the non-literary text. So it doesn't deal with non-literary text doesn't deal with mere historical facts or lifeless historical facts. So we can unearth the textual traces of the past of the particular historical period, historical moment in the non-literary text also. So when a researcher takes these two texts for analysis, for research, they can be juxtaposed. They can be kept side by side for analysis. And a green blatt called the historical document or the non-literary text as an anecdote. He called it an anecdote. And the critic, when the critic writes the new historicist essay based on the approach new historicism, he omits all the academic preliminaries. And what do we mean by academic preliminaries? So many researchers would have interpreted the same text in different ways. Usually, when a critic wants to do research on a particular literary text, he reads the interpretations given by other researchers on the same text. But now, that is what is called academic preliminaries. Before he gets familiar with them, before the researcher gets acquainted with the text, he reads the interpretations or other research articles written by many critics on the same text. But when new historicism is applied to the study of a text, the researcher doesn't care for or he need not take into account all the academic preliminaries, the interpretations given by other researchers on the same text. Because he wants to defamiliarize the text, he approaches the text as a new one. And because no, he wants to make a presentation of a new reality of the text by resituating the text against the historical background. The critical essay starts with a powerful and a dramatic anecdote. The researcher comes out with such a dramatic anecdote. So an example is given from Louis Montrose's essay. So the first sentence of this essay reads like this. I would like to recount an Elizabethan dream, not Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream, but one dream dreamt by Simon Forman on 23rd January 1597. So this essay has such a dramatic opening because it has all the force of the documentary, because he has cited date and place and the account of the eyewitness. So it serves as a documentary. So he doesn't care for mere history, the historical facts. It doesn't deal with the mere historical facts or lifeless historical facts. So the experience, no, it provides the lived experience of the one who has presented the account of the history. So it has to be considered the lived experience of the writer of the historical article. Historical text should not be considered, should not be subordinated as context only. No, it has to be considered a core text. That's why it has to be compared with the literary text. So it is not mere context but a core text. And a literary text and non-literary text are different expressions or different versions of the same historical moment. Historical events and attitudes are irrecoverably lost. They are not available to us because usually histories and other literary texts have been written on and the history of the past only. They are available in the form of writing to us. Non-literary text, especially historical document, can be considered archives. So the literary text also doesn't enjoy any privileged position. So equal weightage should be given to both literary and non-literary text, and so literary text can be considered a part of archival continuum. If historical document is archived, so literary text can be termed as a part of archival continuum. New historicism is very much interested in history as represented and recorded in the written documents. Because the history, though it is a historical article, no, we can trace textual elements in the historical article. The historical text now has to be subjected to close analysis as a literary text because both of them are equals. And here we see the influence of Derrida's deconstruction. And what has he said in deconstruction? So when we analyze the text now, we need not go out of the text, nothing outside the text. The text itself has everything. With the help of the text itself, we can interpret the text. The text can be interpreted. So everything about the past is available in the textualized form. So we need not go for any other reference. And moreover, it is thrice processed. The history is thrice processed in a text. Either it is a literary text or a non-literary text. First when the ideology or the historic, the particular, the culture of the history and all the nuances of the history was practiced by the people of that time itself. It was practiced by the people of that time. And the second one, how it was practiced at the present time, how it was looked upon, how it is looked upon at the present time. Because I told you that the critic also is influenced by the historical background of his own time. And so how it is looked upon, how the historical moment in the past is looked upon by the critic of the present age. Third one, how it is presented in the web of language as a discourse. Right? And so language has its own influence upon the historical moment. And so all these three should be considered when a researcher wants to analyze a text. It can be compared with a non-literary text. So the first portion of the new historicism has been presented through this video. And we can see how it can be applied to the plays of Shakespeare in another video. I hope you would have understood what is presented. You would have got a clear idea of new historicism. Thank you. I wish you a very good day.